Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the second episode of the Oracle Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Justice Miranda, better known as the Oracle. Today I'm joined alongside new head coach at Westwood High School, a guy who spent the last, 6 or 7 years coaching at the college level in the Valley, now taking over at the varsity program at Westwood High School. Please welcome in Coach Eli Burk. Coach, how are we doing tonight on this 104-degree night?
It's a little toasty, but we're doing
Yeah.
great, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
For sure, for sure. Now, you're kind of a new face to the Arizona high school community, I'd say. I'd say in general with just the high school or with the coaching community in general with college, pretty well-known name, but I guess there's probably a few folks in high school that may not be too familiar with your name just yet. So before we jump in, kind of just walk us through, I guess, how you got here and how you got the job at Westwood and kind of your path to get here so far.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot happen in a short window of time. Now, this is going to be year 10 for me of coaching across high school and college levels. But I got my start at St. Joseph High School in Santa Maria, California. Really good high school program out there. When I first started, it was not the powerhouse that it was in that region. But I got a chance to learn under Tom Mott, Garrett Wood, Elliot Davis, just some incredible basketball minds. Spent 2 years there from 2017 to 2019, and then moved back out here to Arizona and got on staff at Benedictine Mesa, so just right down the street from Westwood. Started working with Steve Schaefer and Frank Woodford, and we had 3 really good years there. Not so much by the record, but just by what we accomplished. In those 3 years, we won the conference tournament for the first time. We were one in 29 teams my second and final year there to make back-to-back NAI national tournaments. Got the program's first win in the tournament, program's first All-American. We had a lot of guys go on to sign pro contracts during that time period or who were from that time period. And then I actually moved out of the Valley. A guy who is a really big mentor of mine, Mark Barakoff, got the job at Oklahoma City University, another NAI school, my final year at Benedictine Mesa. And he called me out of the blue in the springtime and said, "Hey, listen, I got an opportunity for you. I think it could be good for you." And so packed my bags, went out to Oklahoma City, and I was there for 2 years. Had a really fun experience there, just going from Benedictine to Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is widely respected as one of the best small college non-Division I programs in the country, with a lot of history, over 100 years of history there. And yeah, we had a good 2 year run. My first year, we ended up making it to the Sooner Athletic Conference tournament semifinals, 18 wins. Had back-to-back freshman of the year there. I think we had probably 8 different guys all conference in my 2 years there. And a couple guys went on to play professionally, and then moved back out here to Arizona. My wife and I got engaged, and she said, "I'm not planning a wedding in Oklahoma, and we're having it in Arizona." I said, "Yes, ma'am." But I ended up coming back and spent the last 2 years at Glendale Community College under the great Ken Carrillo, and really learned a lot. Just in terms of running a program and the whole. That's where I think I got my connection into the high school scene. A lot of our guys were just local kids from the West Side, whether that was programs like Ironwood High School. We had kids from Shadow Ridge, West Point, and we even had some kids from out of the area up in Coconino High School, and some other kids. As far as that goes, Central High School was another big one for us. So kind of got my foot in the door there, and then just 9 years as an assistant. All of a sudden, you're like, man, I need to get I need to move over those 18 inches to being a head coach. And so started putting some feelers out there. I was in the mix for some high school jobs, but Westwood came to fruition, and I got the job in April, and it's been full steam, full speed ahead ever since.
Awesome. Yeah, congratulations on the job as well. You kind of took an interesting path because it does feel like a lot of young coaches they go high school to college and build. It seems like you kind of
Yeah,
took the reverse route of you did a couple years in high school, but most of your time has been at the college level, and then now kind of taking your big role as a head coach at Westwood now in high school. It's a little bit
sure.
of an interesting path there.
Yeah, I really think my time at the 4 year and junior college level helped me prepare for managing a program. taking over the full responsibility of a program is no easy task, especially in the region that I find myself in. But it's, you know, the dynamic at the end of the day might be different, but the job is still the same. You're putting 5 people on the floor to try and win a basketball game. That's how I view it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then, yeah, so you mentioned kind of one of the biggest things you learned was managing the program. Yeah, if I got this correct too as well, when you were at St. Joseph's, from what I saw, is it correct that you were the freshman boys basketball coach and then you helped with like some film and statistics stuff with the varsity?
Yeah, so I kind of cut my teeth at the freshman level, just in terms of getting experience and whatnot
Yeah,
those 2 years. But any way that I could get into the gym, I mean, I luckily that high school is right in my hometown area, so I was working for the family business and then getting out at 3 o'clock, heading over to the gym, and then I wouldn't get home till 9 o'clock at night,
yeah.
just from the standpoint of helping out with varsity for their practice and then running my own. So any opportunity that I could get into the gym, I was doing it.
Yeah, yeah. So this will technically be, I guess, your second time as a head coach at the high school level, just with varsity, but obviously have that 7 year gap from 2019 to 2026 at the college level. You mentioned, especially at GCC, kind of helped you learn how to manage a program. Besides that, was there anything else that you learned in those 7 years, being an assistant at these college programs that you think, are going to help you thrive and anything that you can apply now that you're coaching back at the high school level?
Absolutely. The relationships piece is so big at the college level, especially when I first started. It was because NIL wasn't a thing. The transfer portal wasn't even a big thing at that point. Guys would transfer, and at Benedictine, we lived off of bounce backs. We, got guys from the Division II and the Lone Star, the RMAC, both California leagues, and you had to build those relationships. But it also meant when we had high school kids, building quality relationships with them, because let's face it, you're an 18-year-old kid and you want to try and go out of state to play at a really good Division II program. That's really attractive to a lot of 18-year-olds, and we just wanted to be able to have the foot in the door. And I give a lot of credit to Steve Schaefer and Frank Woodford for just having the forward thinking of, all right, let's play this relationship game. And for me personally, maybe it's just the Californian in me, growing up by the beach city kid, very laid back, very easygoing. I really try to make relationships a big piece, especially walking into Westwood, where the situation was not something that I think most people would like to boast about. I mean, going 0-22 or barely winning games, is not fun for anybody involved, let alone the players. So trying to come in right away and saying, hey, listen, I want to get to know you. I want to know what you want to get out of this experience. And I want to know how we can take this program from where it is now to a respectable program by the time, I've got a couple freshmen who were with me over the summer. I want to see you graduate, but I also want you to leave this program in a better spot over the course of your 4 years. So how are we going to accomplish that? I think that's really what it came down to, is just learning how to build relationships with guys.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And yeah, you mentioned obviously at Westwood in recent years, really I'd say just this century, obviously hasn't had the, I guess, success that probably, the people at Westwood would want last year, 0-22. I think since 2001, 2002, only a handful of conference playing appearances, no playoff wins. So obviously a big task at hand. I think the best season since 2001, 2002 was 15-12 in the 2018-2019 season. So
Yep.
yeah, you're taking over a program that hasn't seen a ton of success. You mentioned it kind of just starts with establishing those relationships with players. I guess for you, what does that rebuild process even look like for you? Obviously, not saying you got to win a championship day one, but kind of
Right.
what's your mindset heading into this new role and trying to build Westwood back up?
Yeah, I think it came down to a lot of different things, but over the course of the summer, in the month of June, was laying a really strong foundation of guys. We got to come in here and we have to work. There is that's another thing that I think I really learned the last 2 years. Ken Carrillo, who is an unbelievable mind for basketball. Just has this tough nose. You're going to come in and work. There is no substitute for hard work mentality. And that really rubbed off on me in the same light, to where it's like, guys, when you come in, you have to treat this like a job. Whatever is going on in school that day, leave it at the door. When you tie those shoes and you come out here, let this be your release. Um, and I really do feel like if you come in and you put in quality work, the results are going to come. It may not come, we live in a world where there's a lot of instant gratification due to these things, but in the world of sports, in the world of athletics, good things take time. And you need to understand that from my position, my assistants, all the way down to, your freshman level players. If you have a program that comes in and is willing to work every single day, those results will come. So that's what June really was for us, was laying the foundation, laying the expectation of, hey guys, you were held to this standard. Now you're getting held to a completely different standard that might be something that is night and day from what it was a year ago, from what it was 4 months ago, right? Getting the job in April. And so I really felt, in talking to some of the people who were close to the program, they all told me, hey, you have a group of kids that want to learn, that are really hungry to learn. You just got to figure out how to talk to them and get that message across. And if you can do that, you'll see those, stepping stones met and the foundation starting to get laid. And that's really what I felt positive about in the month of June, was guys started picking up on concepts, hearing from parents saying, our boys are excited to come to the gym. That's the most rewarding feeling for me, truthfully.
That's awesome. And then was there kind of could you kind of just sense a bit of culture shock from some of the players that were there from the previous season or a couple seasons of, oh yeah, now we're being held to a different standard or just a different culture in general?
Absolutely. I have our athletic equipment manager telling me, like, you've taught them so much so fast that a lot of these kids don't know what hit them. But also, again, just my background from the collegiate level, and working with players who have gone on to play at higher levels, whether that's via transfer or going on to play professionally, you see what it takes to win. I mean, when I was at Oklahoma City, the 2 years that I was there, Chris Wright, who just got the job at Alabama State, was the head coach at Langston. They were number one in the country. They had several Division One bounce backs. A guy like Anthony Roy, who was at Langston for my final year, I believe, and then ended up transferring to Green Bay to play for Doug Gottlieb, and now is at Oklahoma State. You see the talent level. You have to be able to match that talent level, and you do that through certain levels of intensity, certain levels of maintaining culture, but also asking, what is our standard? What do we put up with? What do you guys put up with amongst each other? You have guys that are walking in with 2 minutes left. I'll never forget, coaching the first JV summer league game. I told my varsity guys, hey, listen, I'd love for you guys to be there just to support. And so I'm there, and my JV guys probably won't want me to say this, but I got guys that are wearing their uniforms like capes. And I got kids that are walking in with like 3 minutes to go of a running clock summer league game. And I'm looking at my varsity guys like, guys, we're about to get blown out right now. And they, all of them are questioning why I'm saying that, but it's then all of a sudden it happens and you're like, no, this is what happens, right? What is the standard? What are we holding ourselves, or how are we holding ourselves accountable to match the level that we want to be at? Do we want to be a winless team, or do we want to be 500? Do we want to be 500, or do you want to be a winning, percentage team? So those are the types of things that I think, from a teaching perspective and culture shock, like you said, it took a minute for the guys to catch on, but once they caught on, they were like, oh yeah, no, this can be done.
Yeah. Dang. Well, yeah. Like I said, it's going to be hopefully, yeah, you guys have some success this year. I can even just tell from the way you're talking, I could see how you can instill a different standard, different culture, and how it could be captivating to the players.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate
that's
that.
that's really cool there. And obviously, you guys are in a tough region, if I'm not mistaken. That's the one with Red Mountain, up and coming
Yep.
team. Mesa, obviously, arguably a what, top seven, top six team in the
Easy.
state there. So not going to be easy for you, whether it's just year one or even 3 to 4 years down the line. I guess just looking at this year, what do you think is a realistic goal for you guys this season, or is it mainly just learning to grow?
Well, the beauty of taking over an 0-22 program is every win is an improvement, right?
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I think, we've got talented players who just haven't been taught the right things as far as how to win a game, right? How do you go about maintaining your foot on the gas for 32 minutes? I almost said 40. Just that's the college coach speaking in me. But I've got kids that have been on varsity since they were freshmen, in the past 3 years, and now it's like, okay, listen, dude, I'm going to give you the reins here, and you need to be able to take it, because I was kind of hoping you were going to talk about this. Look, I want to hype up the region. Looking at it,
Yeah.
taking some notes. I mean, in the 6A, just for 6A, you have Mesa, who qualified for the Open, lost in the 6A semifinals to Liberty. Tucson qualified for the Open, lost in the 6A semis to Perry, the runner-up. Red Mountain, 6A playing team, lost in the quarterfinals of the 6A tournament to Liberty. Mountain View was a 6A playing team as well. So, those are four really good quality teams. And Rick McConnell, who's at Coach McConnell, who's over at Dobson, is a legend in this state. And I can tell you, he just alone from his coaching pedigree, he's going to win. He could put 5 folding chairs out there and probably coach him to 10 wins. You know what I mean? So this is a very talented region, and there are really good players that come in here, transferring in every year from various schools. And I mean, even this past week, we saw movement, into the region. So I definitely feel like, why not set the bar high? Why not hold ourselves to the certain standard that we want to hold ourselves to? So is that going to be 20 wins and a berth into the Open division in year one? Maybe not, but why don't we shoot for that? Why don't we have those high expectations and those standards? That, I think that's probably trying to instill that mindset is going to be the biggest thing. Again, would I love to win 20 games and be a Final Four team in the Open? Of course. Is that likely? Highly unlikely. But you got to dream big, and you got to, again, hold yourself to a certain level and of standards and expectations, and see what you can do.
I love it, man. I'm ready to run through a brick wall for you right now after hearing that.
Listen,
Um,
I got extra Westwood gear, man. We can make that happen.
I might need to, maybe I should see if I can reclassify and get eligible for high school.
Anything's
Um,
possible, man.
I guess kind of just switching gears, and that's all great stuff. So, yeah, best of luck to you guys this season. Really hope you do well.
Appreciate
Switching
it.
gears a little bit to the college landscape, kind of
Sure.
just out of curiosity, you mentioned a handful of players that have ended up going D1 from, um, coaches you've worked with and at schools you've been coaching on in the past. I guess you have a best player or a handful of best players that you've coached during your time in college, or anyone in particular you can think of?
Ooh, man. Well, there's a lot. I mean, at least guys from the state of Arizona. Austin Denham, who was actually coming from the region, Mountain View High School, went to, I think, Mesa and Scottsdale Community College, transferred to Utah Valley, had an injury, but came back to Benedictine. My first 2 years were his last 2 years. Unbelievable shooter. Just so talented, 6'3", 6'4", maybe with shoes on, but really gifted shooter. Probably the best player that I've ever coached is Maurice Walton, who I believe was Desert Mountain High School. Played at Chandler Gilbert for 2 years, transferred to UT Permian Basin. But we had a relationship with him. He came back, and he was Benedictine's first All-American. Was the conference tournament's most outstanding player. He's now spent 4 seasons playing abroad across Albania, Ecuador, and Argentina. And now he's back in Ecuador getting, I think actually they had a game yesterday. So I got to take a look at his stats. But I mean, there are so many guys. Henry Galanado, who's playing professionally in the Philippines, just 6'6", 265, and just a beast of a human being. His nickname amongst all of his friends is Maui, just from the standpoint of he's just a massive human being and a barrel bowling ball coming down the lane. But even, other kids like one of the kids that Benedictine had was Malik Payton, who was a 3A player at Florence High School, uh, that I was really trying to push to get to Benedictine right out of high school. He ends up going prep. It's kind of that weird COVID time where everybody wasn't really sure what the world of college athletics was going to look like. But he, was at King University, I believe, in Tennessee. Transferred back to Benedictine just because he had a relationship with us. Wanted to come back home, and now he's moved on and is on to bigger and better things, which is great. But even, again, Tanner Crawford, Mesa High School product, the program's all-time leader, I think, in games played at Benedictine Mesa. So I've been very fortunate to have really good players who have gone on to do a lot of really good things, both within the game of basketball and without. But I mean, people don't realize how good of a state Arizona is as far as high school talent. And that's not to say, obviously, you have your Dream Cities, your Arizona Compasses of the world, your Bella Vistas. Those are all great. But if you look, I mean, Koa Pete just got drafted in the first round and played all 4 years at Perry High School under legendary Coach Dwayne. You have other guys that are doing great things. I mean, rest in peace, but Brandon Clark, Desert Vista High School. I think Terry, who is Dalen Terry, if I'm not mistaken, or played at Bella Vista and did some really good things there. Obviously, you have the Holmes brothers, who were very, very talented as well. So this state is, even now looking at it, Kai Kai, who was at Mesa, who's now going to Compass, Darius Wabbington over at Sunny Slope. You have guys that are high level players in this state, and hopefully you start seeing even more of them stay at their local high schools and do it the way that Koa Pete did. And hopefully, he inspires a nice little wave of high school talent that wants to just take their local team to the, state championship and become a legend.
Yeah, and I mean that kid's a winner. Koa Pete, he's
Absolutely.
just everything he touches turns to gold. I've had this conversation so much with just friends and just people I watch basketball with. Of yeah, I mean that guy's just a winner. I mean you can't really teach that honestly.
No.
But to your point, I actually was talking about this with Coach Ramirez the last episode of yeah, Arizona is just, especially in particular, it feels like I don't know, past 5 to 10 years, just I guess in particular after COVID, just a hotbed bed for talent. Yeah, not even at the prep level. There's so many good players at the local high schools, and I'm kind of with you. Obviously every kid's gonna do what they want to do to, get playing time exposure, and hopefully get some more, offers from colleges, which I completely understand. But it really is fun when a lot of the players are playing for their local teams and their districts, kind of how it was, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It does bring a little bit more parity, but
And I
that's
think
the
the other thing,
conversation. Yeah.
too, sorry to cut you off,
No,
but
you're good. You're good.
you know, in a world where everyone, the whole D1 or bust mentality to me is silly, because you have kids that kind of get swept under the rug. And maybe this is me having spent 7 years at, the junior college and small college levels. But I look at a kid like Jordan Kuwak, who I didn't even know as a high school player, played at Ironwood High School in Glendale. Um, Played on a very good high school team. Jordan Augustine, phenomenal coach, phenomenal coach. Love watching his teams play, even when I was at Benedictine and at Glendale. He goes out to Eastern Oklahoma State College, doesn't find the success that he wants there, but he's, I really want to play. I know I can do things, 6'6", I'm athletic, I have a really good looking jumper. Comes to us at Glendale Community College. We get him for 1 year, puts in the work, averages 20 points a game, leads the ACCAC in scoring for both Division I and Division II junior colleges. And now he's, he got a full ride scholarship to Western Colorado in the RMAC. He's doing great things there. He was the third leading scorer. Those are also the success stories that we need to talk about. We need to talk about a Tanner Crawford who spends 4 years at Benedictine Mesa, a branch campus of Benedictine University in Illinois, is the program's all-time leading shot blocker, all-time leader in games played. I think he's the most blocks in a single game, most blocks in a single season. Those are the success stories that we need to celebrate as well, that don't get a lot of the highlights that, some of these kids like a Koa Pete. And obviously Koa Pete's justified. You win 4 state titles in 4 years and you're the Gatorade Player of the Year. Fantastic. More power to you. But let's also not forget, again, they're even looking at, Westwood High, back in the 60s, there were guys that played at Power 5 schools, and those guys don't get talked about enough because we're so fixated on this mentality of I've got to build out a brand. I've got to build out, who I am as a person. That's fine. Whatever happened to, winning, making that, like you talk about, man, Cole Pete's a winner. That kid wins, and that's going to stick with him, wherever he goes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, especially when he went to U of A, because I'm a big U of A fan. I was
Sure.
ecstatic because I go, well, they just got a winner. Same thing with the Suns. I mean, regardless of his role the next couple of years, I think that's a guy you want in the locker room.
Absolutely.
And we'll see how he grows. And then you kind of even mentioned too, just in general, JUCO success stories, the ones that do end up making it to D1. I think like Mikael Brown at Louisville, he was JUCO for a couple years. The Axel Lendeborg, didn't he get drafted first round? He was at Arizona Western for a couple years or
Exactly.
something. Then gets to Michigan and wins a title. So yeah, I mean, D1 is not the only route to take to, especially if you want to get to the NBA. Start with the JUCO trail and then see how you flourish there. So
Yeah, I mean, I can give you another example of a guy that was at Glendale before I was there, and that's Adam Hamilton, who was at Buckeye High School, I want to say kind of in the late 2019, 2020. But I mean, he spent, uh, I think, 3 years because he spent a COVID year at Glendale, but he ended up at Lamar, had a fantastic career, ended up getting, I think, some NIL and has, played a little bit in Greece and is now bouncing around between a couple teams. I mean, there's so many success stories that you can have that, again, I hope coming into the high school basketball space from the collegiate level, we're able to celebrate more of. Guys playing at NAI colleges, guys getting full scholarship, guys graduating from college. How are we, making those success stories known? Or even, again, having spent time in the region, looking at what Pima Community College does. At one point, they were the number one team in the country. I mean, Wes Ball, who I'm blanking on his high school down in Tucson, and that's bothersome for me because I wanted him at Benedictine Mesa. But I mean, Wes Ball was going to go to Kansas and ended up going to Colorado Mesa instead. Like that's a really crazy success story. But also, people don't realize that Wes Ball redshirted at Pima Community College. He waited his turn and he grew and he developed and he fell in love with the game. And over time, he was able to find success in those spots, right? To where, again, Pima going to nationals, finishing third place. Kansas is in that building. Kansas is in that gym. They see 6'9", can stretch, can pass the floor a little bit, or pass the ball a little bit, stretch the floor. Those are the things that people, again, don't really see. And again, the whole fixate of I got to get D1 right away. No, man, run your race. Run your race. If you're a junior college player, take full advantage of being a junior college player. Go out and ball out. Go get a scholarship to D1. Prove them wrong. Have that mindset. You don't have to, chase instant success because having been at the college level for the time period that I have, a lot of the time that grass isn't as green as it looks, man. That grass is turf and it's terrible to play on and it is a horrible experience. And then you turn around and you see that grass that you were standing on and you're like, let me go back to that.
yeah, well said. And I agree wholeheartedly with you on a lot of that stuff. So hopefully, yeah, it'd be nice if we could see some more kids from obviously if you got D1 looks, take the D1 looks, but
Absolutely.
don't nothing to be sad about if your alternative is JUCO. I mean, use it as time to grow. Um, so really, really good conversation there. Again, switching gears a little bit, we kind of talked about this just briefly before we jumped on, but Coach Ramirez, you're part of the LABC. For
Yeah.
those of you who don't know, that's the Latino Association of Basketball Coaches. Um, Personally, me, I'm not like super familiar with the program. I kind of just know the name and some of the members of it, but I guess for the audience, what exactly is the program and what do you guys do and how did you get involved with it there?
Yeah. I mean, I've been very fortunate to work for some great people, but I've also been very fortunate to be a part of some organizations that have helped really grow me as a coach. And the LABC certainly is one of them. And really that came in because of Coach Ramirez. He sits in I think a senior advisory role or some sort of director position up there. But No, the LABC is a great resource for Latino coaches who want to be able to connect with like-minded individuals, obviously basketball-wise, but like-minded in terms of culture and heritage. There, is a growing number of us in this sport, which is awesome. It's really fun to, be able to connect that way. I mean, since getting into the organization just as a member, I've been able to, network with a lot of great people and interact with people. I mean, even when I was at Oklahoma City University, we were very fortunate that our university was the closest university to where the Thunder played. So we had NBA teams that were rolling in, just coming to get shots up. And my boss had a couple connections with the Milwaukee Bucks, and I wish I was there for those days so I could see Giannis, because everyone said when he walked into the gym, he had to turn sideways because he's such a broad shoulder. He wouldn't fit in the door frame. But, one of the coolest things for us is we had the Mexico City G League team practice with us. And, their coaching staff and their, training staff are all, Latinos and whatnot. And all different walks of life. You have Mexicanos, you have, Brazilians, you have, again, all walks of life that are, in the sport. It's awesome to be a part of. But if you're a Latino coach that wants to get involved with it, I highly recommend joining. It's a great networking tool. They do luncheons at the Final Four. I know they did one this past year or this past July in Summer League. It's just a great way to, again, meet like-minded individuals, both from a basketball perspective and from a cultural perspective as well.
Awesome. And how long have you been involved with the LABC?
Well, I've been a member for a few years now. I
Okay.
don't know the exact timeline of it, but I know I joined in when I was at Benedictine Mesa. So that would have been, uh, wow, every bit of 7 years, 6 or 7 years of being a part of the program, and to see the coalition grow more and more and more and do more things. It's awesome. I give Coach Ramirez a lot of credit for helping build that networking pool up tremendously.
Yeah, and yeah, great to network, especially at just the local high school. In the whole local high school community, great to network, get to meet other coaches, expand your reach. I'm sure it's probably helped you a lot in terms of, yeah, just meeting a bunch of cool new people. And that's cool, the stuff you mentioned about with, practicing with the G League team in Mexico City and everything like that. So that's sweet, man. Kind of just randomly, I did notice. So you went to West Virginia and you got a degree in, was it sport coaching? Was that the?
Yeah, that was an interesting time. So I did my degree program online.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, because I
and
saw it like intertwined with while you were still coaching in college. So I was like, there's no way this guy was flying back and forth from
man, I wish
WVU to.
country roads take me home.
Yeah,
But no, I really do feel, again, for those, I know this is a podcast about Arizona high school athletics, but for those who are interested in, that profession, I really recommend that program. But also I really recommend going back to school and getting your education. I really think from an administrative perspective, going through certain things in my master's degree and even in my undergrad as well, just to get up to a certain level, to a certain standard of education and technical prowess, learning how to practice plan, learning how to you know hold budgets, learning how to do certain things. That's certainly important.
yeah. I didn't even realize that was a degree. I saw sport coaching. Like, I didn't even realize that that was a thing. So is WVU or was West Virginia one of the only places to offer that, or are there other
So I
colleges that
know
do it?
there are a few throughout the country that do offer those programs, and every program is going to be different. Some do it
Yeah.
more for sport coaching, some do it for more of athletic administration.
Okay.
So it really just depends on what the individual wants.
Yeah.
Again, I speak highly of all my educational backgrounds, both at West Virginia and ASU. Um, but again, I really recommend, again, if you're serious about this profession, why not go get more teaching? Why not improve yourself as a coach?
Yeah, for sure. That's cool, man. Yeah, like I said, that was the first time I've seen anyone major in that, got a degree in that. So that was really cool to see. And I guess last question for me here, just kind of, I was kind of scrolling through your timeline on Twitter, wasn't meaning to stalk or anything, and I saw this tweet and I had to ask about it. This was, I think, last playoff season. I saw you tweeting out getting turned away at the door of a high school playoff game as a college coach, that's a new one. I just need to hear the story behind this.
So I'll take partial fault in this, not from a standpoint of not being well connected. I grabbed the wrong AIA pass and I didn't realize it until I got to the game. The AIA pass that I grabbed that we have, okay, again, true story. Glendale Community College has the correct AIA pass. Okay. Just so happens that I got the wrong one uh, from the drawer. But I got there. I presented the card. The guy who was there, he was doing his job. I'm not mad at it or anything like that. Uh, you know, it's just I think there are, and God bless the people who did reach out, the high school coaches that I had good connections with who did reach out saying, please tell me that wasn't our playoff game. And it very well, I won't name names. I won't name anything there. But again, that's water under the bridge, man. It's just, I think it's funny just being again, like we talked about the stipulation of Glendale Community College. Like no one dreams of going junior college when they start playing the sport. But at the same time, junior colleges do a fantastic job of a lot of different things, not just for basketball, but for opportunity for kids who want to continue playing and get an education. It's I don't know how many people know this, but if a student from a Maricopa County high school graduates with a 3.25, they qualify for a presidential scholarship that covers up to 15 credit hours at their local junior college,
Right.
Maricopa Community College. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't realize that you can get 15 credit hours paid for or under a scholarship, right? Just by having a 3.25 GPA. If I don't have any, looks coming out of high school, and I know my junior college is interested in me and I have quality grades, why wouldn't I take that?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Why that's a slam dunk. I get to play, sports in college. My first 2 years, as long as I maintain those grades, are free. And even if you're not a presidential scholarship, credit hours at Maricopa Community Colleges are like $97 a credit hour. You're paying, call it 100. You're paying $1,500. For some people who work a part-time job, that's a paycheck. And you don't even have to stay in an apartment. You can stay at your house with your parents and your mom's cooking. That I wish I could have done that. Why not be able to take advantage of the resources that you got?
Exactly, exactly. Well, I didn't know that rule about the Maricopa Community College thing, so that's pretty neat there. Yeah, again, more incentive if you're not getting those D1 looks to go JUCO there.
I
Yeah.
mean, I know, we'll be playing in the Central Jamboree over this
Mm,
fall in September, which will be great. But I mean, we've got some good games, on the docket. We'll play. We open at Trevor Brown, which will be, good for us just as far as gauging, where we're at. But we've got Boulder Creek at home. We've got Notre Dame. I think, yeah, we've got Notre Dame at home. We'll play at Queen Creek, which will be a tough game. They got a new coach who came over from Castile, who was very
okay.
good last year,
Yeah.
and we played him in the summer, and they were very, very talented. And obviously, again, just in the region with Mesa and Mountain View, and we're going to be hosting a tournament at the end of December, co-hosting with Mountain View, which will be great. Got a couple out-of-state teams that'll be coming down. One from Washington, one from Oregon, which will be fantastic. It'll be good for us to get some glimpses at talent outside of the state. But
Yeah.
yeah, again, I'm excited just with what we got, the players we've got. Uh, I've got some kids that I think with the right coaching and the right motivation tactics could jump on the scene as not necessarily national powerhouses. I don't think that'll happen at Westwood anytime soon, but kids you'll look up and be like, oh, wow, he had a really good career, or he had a really good end to his career. And now he gets to play, at a good NAI program out West, or a good NAI program, or a good RMAC program, D2, goes junior college, maybe, has a cup of coffee playing professionally somewhere. So I think, again, with the right, uh, installation of culture and foundation, we could do some pretty special things at Westwood, and
Yeah.
hopefully I'm there for a while to see it all transpire. What's so interesting is Westwood is such a tight knit community.
Oh,
Um,
really? Okay.
Everywhere you go in this state, if I'm wearing Westwood gear, someone will look at me. The school's motto is War Eagle, tear 'em up Westwood. So someone will, like, if someone says that to me, I have to respond. But you also have generations of families who have gone there because it was one of two high schools in Mesa for the longest time, and then it just kind of sprawled out and out and out. And you had Mountain View, you had Dobson, you had Skyline, you had Desert Mountain way out there, and even now like Eastmark way out in East Mesa. So you just lost a lot of the quality athlete, I guess,
Hmm.
in that, sprawl out east and even further south into Chandler and like Queen Creek, Santan, all that good area. So, is it tough? Yes, but again, there are kids who can play
Hmm.
that are on the border of like, okay, maybe I live in the boundary of Westwood, but do I want to go to Mountain View instead, or do I want to go to Dobson, or do I want to go to Mesa? And it's like we need to do something to get those kids to stay here at Westwood.
Hmm.
And the way you do that is you win.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And that's a lot easier said than done.
And if you win, yeah, maybe you get some transfers coming in, which that opens up Pandora's box. So,
I've never been more happy to get out of the transfer saga business, stepping
yeah.
away from college coaching, only to find myself in even more trenches of the transfer saga.
Yeah.
Just again, you hear about it all the time, and with so many preps that are here,
So
it's
many.
bound to happen. But I mean, even a kid that I really liked, Jalen Ideron, who was at
Oh,
Camelback,
yeah.
Camelback High School with Glenn Ellis, great coach over there, who's now doing great things at Eastmark. He transferred to Sunny Slope, and
Looked really good.
which was a fantastic move for him. And I
Mhm.
think now he's going to go to Chandler Gilbert Community College. But I mean, I loved watching him play at Camelback, and again, just the name of the game. It is what it is. People think the grass is greener. For better or worse, the handlers, the Instagram people, that culture has trickled into high school athletics, and it's because it's trickled into college athletics, because it's trickled into professional sports.
Mhm.
And for better or worse, you have kids now who are listening to the wrong people. And sometimes you do have those moments where it's like, okay, yeah, that transfer makes sense.
Mhm.
You're going to, I'll use, obviously we can end the podcast wherever, but I'll use the situation at Arcadia. I don't know the gist of it. I just saw, again, he had resigned.
Yeah.
There's going to be a ripple effect of that. But also the ripple effect doesn't just affect the kids who are going out. It affects the kids that are still there,
Mhm.
right? They've went through this entire summer process thinking that they're going to play for one coach. Now they get uprooted just before the start of the school year. And now that also sends shockwaves to that region. You know,
Yeah.
that
And
changes the
even,
entire dynamic, because you might have kids that want to say, okay, I live in the Scottsdale Unified School District. I live in the boundary where maybe I could end up going to Saguaro, or maybe I could go up the 51 to North Canyon or Paradise Valley, or maybe I'm transferring to Sunny Slope, because that's not too far away. So there's so many domino effects that can take place just from one decision, and it's kind of wild, man. I never would have thought it would have been at this level that quickly.
yeah, neither would I. There's got to be, and I think it's still the same where if you transfer, unless you get some sort of hardship appeal, which certain guys will, you still have to sit out half the year. So I don't think that's
Yep.
changed. But man, there's got to be some sort of regulation
Yeah.
on the transfer stuff. I don't know what it is,
Well,
but it is pretty insane.
I think truthfully, and this is a whole nother discussion, but you could use this for a clip on your Instagram if you want. I would love to see, again, having started my coaching journey in California, where the state's just so big, so it's split up into sections. I would love to see the AIA go to a more geographical league that mixes all classifications together and allows for competitive balance across certain regions. to where you could have, for example, a Santan Charter, who has had very much a very crazy rise to prominence at the lower divisions, but has really talented players. Why can't they take a stab at a Chandler or a Gilbert High School in league, right? But what I loved the most about being in the CIF is you still had your classifications. So even if you had, for example, like a ALA Mesa North that just started and is going to be I think a 3A school.
Yeah.
Playing a Mesa High in their league, but then Mesa High can say, hey, you know what? We're going to go to the Open, or we're going to play in 6A. And ALA Mesa North can say, we're going to play in 3A, or we're going to play in the Copper. You have the ability to have that, fluidity amongst the AIA. Instead of having these PowerPoints and these, questions about what's a quality win, how am I moving up in the rankings? And I think even Lucas said it on or Coach Ramirez said it on the podcast, like, no one knows what the algorithm really is that the AIA uses. And I'm not here to try and change that overnight or say it's not the right system, but that might also, give guys an opportunity to keep their players, right? Because you could say, hey, yeah, maybe we did go, in a 20 game season where you're playing 22 games. If Westwood went 11-11, right, and we're a 6A school, but you have a 32 team open division where you still have it, and maybe the open division now doesn't become double elimination. You fall back down to your classification. Maybe those teams get invited and you say, hey, listen, you're either in the open or you're in your state classification, right? I think that was really beneficial that I saw at the California high school level, to allow teams to have a chance to compete, to give players more opportunity to compete against like-minded competition. Again, St. Joseph High School, when I got there, it wasn't the powerhouse that it was on a national stage. Tom Mott, Garrett Wood, Elliot Davis have done a tremendous job getting that program to national, relevancy as far as high school basketball goes. But they play in the open division. And if they lose, or they play in the top flight division. I don't know if CIF Central still does an open division or not. But, I mean, you're playing against the Clovis West, the Clovis North, the Bullard, those top flight teams. You are playing against them every year in the playoffs. So you have to schedule yourself to where I got to prepare for, playing Clovis West at Sellard Arena in Fresno, for an opportunity to get a CIF championship. And then I got to prepare myself to play Harvard or Westlake because I'm in the open division in the southern region of CIF. I got to prepare to play those big names, the Mater Days, the, Jay Sarah's, I'm blanking on some of the other schools, the Oaks Christians of the world, right?
Sierra Canyon.
Sierra Canyon, exactly.
Yeah,
So I would
Rio
love
Redondo
to see,
Union is a ton
exactly.
of insane teams.
I would love to see the AIA move to a league system that still allows for those teams that maybe don't have great years every year. But if you have a team that goes 500 or slightly above, like a 15-6 or, whatever, and maybe they don't want to play in the open because they know that they're going to get a lower seed, they don't have to take that open invite. They can just drop down to their classification in 5A or 4A and have the ability to compete for a state championship.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea. I think another thing too is I've had this conversation a lot with my brother, just some other people in the sphere of basketball, and just a lot of thoughts of, I mean, the open there's got to be some sort of alteration to it. It might just be too open or too big. Like, especially if teams are, I talked about this to Coach Ramirez of like, maybe there's some teams who are purposefully losing before the quarterfinals because they want to go back to 4A or 5A or whatever the heck it is.
The way you eliminate it is you tell people it's one and done.
Exactly.
Or you tell people it's one and done, and if you take the invitation into the open, you don't drop down into your classification. To me, it makes no sense to reward teams, not necessarily for losing, but all right, you say that you're the best. We're going to put you in the bracket with the best of the best across the, obviously you can keep 4A, 5A, 6A separate from the lower levels. Um, but if you say that you are the best and you want to compete at that, we're not going to reward you by saying, okay, you were wrong. We're going to put you where you're supposed to be
Yeah.
now. Double elimination just doesn't sit well with me. And maybe that's a personal preference, but I think the way that you get rid of it is the open should be an invitational. It should be, if you want to keep it 32 teams, fantastic, right? I'm all for that. But it should be either 32 and it's, one and done, you lose, you're out, or you drop it down to 16. And the way that, okay, I've kind of, this is my nerd basketball coming out. You have 16 leagues across 6A, 5A, and 4A that comprise of your teams that qualify for the open, and the same can be done for 3A, 2A, 1A. Across those 16 leagues for each of those classifications that compose of a 6A, a 5A, and a 4A school within those same leagues, you take the 16 best teams in those leagues, that's your open. So you may have a 4A school who wins the league one year that automatically qualifies for the open. Let's say they don't want to go to the open. That's fine. You drop to your classification. You go down to the next best team in the league. And again, you still have your 16 teams in the open. You could even do the top 2 teams get automatically entered into the open and still have it be 32, right? Mm-hmm. But at least you're giving the teams that may not have the same talent pool as, obviously Millennium's Millennium. Sunny Slope is Sunny Slope. Mesa is Mesa. Tucson is Tucson. Perry is Perry, right? Basha is Basha. What about, a team like, a Central High School? Or let's take a look at, like Liberty, who won the 6A. Mark Wood's a fantastic coach, right? Could they have done it in the open? I don't know. But were they atop of their region? Absolutely, right? So do we reward the teams that win by allowing them to compete against the best? Or do we penalize the teams that don't have as good of a record or as good of a season by allowing those teams who do have really good seasons, to drop down to that classification? The good news is I don't get paid to solve that answer.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, even if you just dropped it to 8 teams,
Yeah.
like the 8 best teams from 6A to 4A, I think a lot more people would be okay with that. Because then it's like, yeah, you're not, if you're, let's just say you're Valley and you're an 8 seed. Okay, you just get in as the final top 4A team and then you play a Sunny Slope or Millennium. I mean, you're going to go
Yep.
balls to the wall in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that idea. It's, but yeah, it's a hard problem to solve for. I even thought, well, what if you have like a top 8 open that's played after the season? I don't know. So like maybe you just do like your normal 4A,
A
5A,
tournament of champions or
6As.
something.
And then once you do that normal 4A through 6A, then you re-rank, do a top 8, or even you could do a top 6. Maybe you get 2 teams get a bye. I don't know. And then you play that just for the heck of it. Reality is the top 6A team is probably just going to win it again. But because like the CIF South is effectively that. Because if you really
Yeah.
think, I mean, the southern section in California usually is the best and they always win. So, like last year, Sierra Canyon, I think they beat Harvard Westlake like 4 times. But they won the what was it? They won the CIF South
Yep.
Open against Harvard Westlake, and then they ended up beating Salesian by, I don't know, 10 to 15 points, and they were most likely never going to lose that game. So it was kind of just, it feels like it was kind of just a whatever game for them, where the
Right.
South was basically the real championship. Um, so I don't know, it could be a situation like that where like maybe the 6A team wins the 6A in the open, but I don't know, it's tough. You could even do pool play. I like the
Yeah.
idea of pool play. That's what the southern section does, where you got
Yep.
8 teams, you got two groups of 4,
Seed them
and then
appropriately and then
you
one
just
and done.
duke it out. Yeah, I like the idea of pool play because then every team gets a couple games, so it's
Yeah.
not just a one and done.
Yeah.
So that could be something. I don't know who the committee is in Arizona that decides the stuff. Maybe we need to jump on it or something. But
Maybe.
I would be
Who knows?
more than happy to discuss alternatives to the open because I am getting a little bit tired of this every year speculating if teams are throwing it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last year
It's
was really I'm not going to name names, but there were a few instances where I was like, okay, what's going on here? Like,
And I get it, right? You want to compete, you want to have an opportunity to win. I
yeah.
do understand that. At what cost, though?
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's the $1 million question, and thankfully we don't have to solve it.
Yeah. Or you could even do, this is again getting long-winded, but we could make a focus on maybe putting more of an emphasis on regional titles. Because if you really think about it, if someone wins your region, you don't really care. I mean, like Perry won the freaking 6A Premier, what was it, 4 years in a row? You think they cared
Right.
about that? No, they just wanted to win the
Exactly.
Open. So, because I think back in the day, I mean, this was when my brother was in high school. So, like 2013, 2014, I was in junior high at the time. But we used to have like sectionals. So
Yeah.
before the playoffs, you'd have sectionals in your region. And if you won
Yep.
that, that was still a pretty good deal. And it would also bump you up in playoff seeding. But I do think there needs to be a bigger emphasis on winning your region. Maybe there's a regional tournament because I know in California too, like I lived in San Francisco for a couple years for my job previously before moving out here.
Hmm.
And like the two big teams, Archbishop Reardon,
Yep.
St. Ignatius, but they're in the I forgot what the Catholic something league. I don't know, but it's like if you win,
Yeah.
they were in the championship every year. And so like if you win that region, that's a big deal before you get to the NorCal Open.
And
So
that's why I think leagues make the
leagues,
most sense
yeah.
because it's geographical and it
Uh-huh.
has the ability. Again, an ALA Gilbert North could play Higley because they're literally down the street from each other.
Yeah.
You know, we could play obviously Dobson, but we could also play Tempe, right? And then you still have the classic powerhouse of, oh, it's a Mesa school versus a Tempe school, right?
Exactly.
Or think about like a Central High School versus Brophy,
Yes. Yeah. Or
like
like, yeah, Central Sunny
Central
Slope
versus St.
Brophy.
Mary's,
Yeah.
Central Sunny Slope. Like again, the possibility for natural rivalry is being eliminated across all sports. I mean, look at college, right? You've got USC and UCLA playing in the Big Ten. Stanford and Cal are playing in the ACC. Like, what are we doing here,
Yeah.
right? So, but I mean, I could go on all night
Yeah.
about this stuff. I think both of us probably want to have some dinner sometime soon.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I guess, yeah, just one more closing thought for me. I do like the idea of like the regional play of, yeah, because like let's just say you do that, especially even if it's before the postseason, if it's before the 4A through 6A tournaments. Yeah, if you have a like a Brophy, like a top four, a Brophy, St. Mary's, Central, Sunny Slope, playing a regional, 4-team tournament, and then if you win your region, I mean, that's I'd argue if like Central won, let's just call it a Central Phoenix regional title, and then they got bounced in like the second round of the Open or something, and their season was over, whatever. Like that's
way more
I mean, that
implications.
that's something that's remarkable. That's something you'd be proud about. So
Yeah.
I think bigger focus on regional titles and kind of like what you said, yeah, just maybe even potentially leagues that could help grow the sport. And I'm always for more competitive games. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to just be playing a bunch of obviously there's not that many games in a season either way, but I mean obviously I would like something before the postseason of a regional title.
Yeah.
That'd be more fun than just some random like February 2nd game that doesn't really mean anything. So
Yep.
I'm all for more entertaining, more competitive games, more at stake. So that would be, and it's good for the fan base.
Yep.
Everyone, I would go crazy over that. I
Yep.
I mean, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I could ramble about this all night. That unless is there anything you wanted to talk about before we kind of close out? Because door's still open if there's anything you want to bring up.
No, I just want to say I appreciate you having me on. I kind of again in April when I got the job, I stumbled into following a lot of accounts, and your accounts was one of the things that I stumbled into, and just like the view of it, like the graphics that you got going on. That was as the social media guy at a lot of basketball places. That was fun. But no, I appreciate having you on. I'm excited to see this thing grow. Again, I think there's a lot of good talent here. There's a lot of stories that need to be told in this state as far as high school basketball goes. And every opportunity that we can to highlight these kids, we need to. So the more people we have like you who want to highlight it, the better. And so I'm a fan. If there's anything that I can do to help you out moving forward, you will not be turned away at the door of any Westwood basketball games. I can assure you that. You just gotta, let me know, and we'll make sure to get you in and whatnot, so we can get the Warriors back on the map.
For sure. Yeah, I appreciate the compliments. Yeah, just trying to help grow the game. Again, this state doesn't get well, on a national scale of all like the top tier players, they get the credit, the recognition they deserve. But as a whole, there's a lot of like mid-tier, low-tier players that people should be paying attention to that they're not. So kind of just trying to do my due diligence there. And yeah, I got my AIA pass coming in soon, and they're gigantic. They're like freaking pieces of paper.
Yeah,
So it won't be difficult to get into that to the Westwood
yeah,
game. Yeah, I'll be sure to let you know, and I'll have to pop on over for a few games this year. But yeah, Coach, appreciate you taking the time. Thanks again for joining, and yeah, I guess to everyone else, have a good night. Thanks again for listening. Take care.